Hello, gamers. Welcome to the SkeletonTomCast. When you ride an escalator, do you take steps or do you simply ride? That's the first discussion for today. And I want to weigh in on this a little bit. I particularly think this is a very contextual concept. You know, if you are at the airport riding an escalator or if you're at the mall riding an escalator, these are two different scenarios, and I think they play out differently. For example, if you're at the airport, you most likely have luggage, and in that sense, it's hard to drag a case of luggage up the stairs. And so when you get on an escalator, you plant your feet and you set your luggage down and you ride the escalator up. And it's easier and more efficient than pulling it up the stairs. But then we get into the interesting idea of riding one at the mall. Now, as far as I know, every time I see people on the escalator at the mall, they stand on it and they don't walk. They simply just ride the escalator up. But logically in my head, I'm thinking this is supposed to be the same as the automatic walkways at an airport, in that you're traveling a certain distance. In the case of the automatic walkways, you're traveling, horizontally across the floor. So usually in an airport, it's a long distance. You know, the terminals are like a mile long and you have to do a lot of walking. So they add these moving sidewalks so that you can walk faster. And with an escalator, it's the same thing, but vertical. But so you're ascending or descending from somewhere, and the escalator is supposed to make that easier. The thing is, you run into this problem with the moving sidewalks where there is a walk side and a stand side. Now, I don't know why people do this, but some people do walk to the moving sidewalk and then just stand on it and let it carry them to where they're going. And I think that's ridiculous. And I feel like most people I see at the airport do walk on the moving sidewalk. But then we get to the mall and you see the escalator, and most people stand on the escalator. But don't you realize that walking to your destination on an escalator is going to double the speed that you get there? Like, it's really slow to walk up the stairs. You know, it is a laborious task depending on, who you are. So walking up the stairs is like something you would want to make easier. So in a sense, I can understand why some people wouldn't walk up an escalator. You know, if you're old or if you're like out of shape, it's the same as walking upstairs. So you're just like, okay, cool, I don't have to walk upstairs. I can just stand here. But for me, an able-bodied 23-year-old man, I can walk up the stairs just fine. So in my head, I'm going to walk up the escalator, so I'm going to get to where I'm going twice as fast. And I think that's the debate, folks. Should we as a society transition into walking on escalators instead of sitting or standing on them? I think that's going to be hard. This in an era of social change, this is one of those things that's it's very polarizing, okay? So try to keep the debate heat to a simmer, all right, when we're talking about escalators. But this is important to me because I see escalators every day. Now, speaking of that, the reason this comes to my attention is because a few things have been racking my brain since I started working at the airport. And, obviously I'm sitting around thinking about escalators and moving sidewalks, and it got me thinking, do I walk correctly? Here's a question for you, viewer. Do you walk correctly? This is a question you may have never considered in your life. And in fact, I've been walking. My birthday was just recently, and I've been walking for 23 years. How is it that I'm walking incorrectly? Well, guess what? I am. I noticed this issue a couple years ago when I noticed all my pairs of shoes had an indentation, and some of them had a hole right above my big toe on my right foot. And I was like, what's causing this? Because I have shoes from multiple years, like from spanning all the way from like 8th grade up until, 2018. So I have a lot of old shoes, and I have multiple pairs. I think I have 4 pairs with that toe hole. And I was like, well, I trim my toenails, so it can't be that. And I don't know. I guess I just figured that I had a weird foot when I walked. You know, I stuck my toe up. But working at the airport, I have to walk a lot. And like I mentioned in the first segment, I have to walk multiple miles a day. And you do that much walking, and obviously your feet start to get sore. But I noticed my left foot was completely fine, and my right foot was only sore on the front half. I don't know what the terminology is for that. You know, the back of your foot is the ball, and the front, I don't know, with the pad, I assume, maybe? The palm of my foot. That's what was hurting. And so I was like, okay, clearly something's wrong here. So the next time I was working, I was paying attention to how I was walking. And this is something, I don't know how miraculously I've never done this before, but I paid attention to how I was stepping into each step. And I noticed that I was pressing really hard into the pad of my right foot. And right at that moment, it clicked for me like I was being unplugged from the Matrix. And I was like, oh my God, I'm walking incorrectly. And so from that point on, I am very aware of how I walk, and it is completely changed. Like, I just bought a new pair of shoes, and they have no sign of creating the infamous big toe hole. And also, my foot soreness is a lot more even across both my feet, and it's reduced a lot. So if you're out there and you're wondering, man, why does my foot hurt in this weird place? It's probably your fault. Just kidding. But they don't teach you how to walk in school, you know? So that's something you have to figure out on your own. And it took me this long to figure it out, but hey, now I know. And next time I buy my Dr. Scholl's, not sponsored, I can include the increased foot pad support. Speaking of work, I work in the airport. I've mentioned this 3 times. And in the airport, you tend to see a lot of people. And if you live and grew up in the area that airport is in, you'll probably see a lot of people that you recognize. Now, this one goes out to all my people still living in their good old, hometowns, okay? I absolutely despise seeing people that I recognize bars. And by that, I don't mean like, oh, that's my cousin. Oh, that's my old friend. I mean like people that you know, but you're not close with them. And this goes out to all the people in school, all the people who have colleagues at work. And you can come across these people at the grocery store, just walking down the street. You can see people you recognize. And for some reason, I hate this. Like, this experience of seeing someone across the street and you guys are glancing at each other, you're walking towards each other, you're like, oh, do I know this person? Do I recognize them or not? Are they going to say something to me? Do they recognize me? What if somebody recognizes me and I don't recognize them? What if I recognize somebody and they don't recognize me? This is all the meta of seeing people that you recognize. And this type of stuff is very frustrating to me. And I know this seems like a weird complaint, but I don't know what it is. I think it's more along the lines of not wanting to be associated with wherever you know that person from. Like, if I see someone from high school, I hated my high school. I think the school's trash. And I also am not that fond of the area that I grew up in. So when I see people from those things, it reminds me of that. And I also think there's a deeper layer to it where there's like guilt or like shame involved. Like, let me know, other young people out there, let me know if you can relate to this. When I'm at work, like I said, I'm at the airport and I'm in my work clothes. I'm wearing a red button-up shirt and I'm pushing a cart, doing manual labor. And I see, for example, I see a girl walking towards me that I do recognize from school, and she is traveling and she's with someone and they're hanging out and they're talking, and this person's walking past me. I actively avoid them, because I don't want to have this conversation. Oh, hey, what's up? Oh my gosh. Wow. What are you doing here? Oh, you work here, blah, blah, blah. This nuanced scenarios would cause me to do this entire segment because I don't want to talk to this person, not out of any malice. I actually like them a lot. I think they're a cool person. And any other circumstances, I would have wanted to talk to them. But outside, I'm at work, I just don't want to be seen. Part of me is like, this is not me. When you see me, I think that's the key to it, is seeing people you recognize while you're in a state that doesn't represent you. Like you're just in your comfy clothes, you're headed to the gas station at 2 a.m. and you happen to see someone you went to high school with. You don't want that person to see you and be like, oh, this is how you look. This is how you look, And it's weird for me, the work thing, because it's like there's shame involved in being at work. Like I'm literally working to make money, but somehow being seen in that position is somehow shameful, I guess. But, this is all probably just insecurities. But I think that it's an interesting debate that I'd like to hear other people's perspectives on is, how do you feel when you see someone you recognize, but you're not close with them? You don't really know them. You just know who they are and you know their name, So yes, let me know. Speaking of airport people, like the ones I recognize but don't want to interact with, working at the airport is strange because why do people come to the airport, right? To go somewhere. And either they're there for business or they're there for pleasure. They're traveling to go somewhere fun, or they're just on a business meeting and they got to go meet up with somebody. And you see a lot of emotions. The range of emotions at the airport is really wild. And it's not like a grocery store. Like, for example, I worked at a gas station, and most of the people who came in there were pretty similar. They want to get in and out. They want to get their shit and leave. And they want to play their lottery tickets. They want to buy their cigarettes and dip. And that's good because they know what they want. But when you're at the airport, it's a strange, event. You spend multiple hours there. You could sleep there, eat there. You're traveling with your things. And so you look one direction. Let me just explain. For my job, I have to walk basically from one end of the terminal to the other end. And if you know anything about airports, the terminal is just like a long hallway with all the different gates that you can get on the planes. And obviously, I see hundreds of people getting on and off planes and just being around the terminal. And I'm looking around at them constantly, just honestly staring at their faces. Like, I wonder if these people think I'm creepy sometimes. But it's because you'll look one direction and you see somebody. The other day, I saw a woman. She was being surprised by her husband on a trip. I assume he told her they were going on a trip, but he didn't tell her where. And when I saw was they walked up to the gate and she looked up and saw the destination and was like, oh, wow. She was all excited. And I was like, wow, that's very wholesome. That's cute. But then later in the day, you look and you see other people, and there's guys on the phone. They're just pissed. They're just gritting their teeth. Where the fuck are you? Where do I go? What do I do? All this shit, the confusion and the stress of just traveling. You're trying to find your kids. You're trying to find your gate. You're trying to find all this other shit. You don't know where you are. You're in a new state. Maybe you're in a layover flight. It's crazy, the different emotions you see on people, specifically at the airport. It's honestly something I've never noticed before. You don't go to the mall really and see people pissed off or crying or extremely happy. Most people just look normal or just idle at the mall, for example, or at the store. But at the airport, it's just different. Now, for the final discussion of this episode, do you cook or do you use pre-made ingredients or meals? Now, this is not related at all to our previous topics, but I wanted to bring this up because, quite frankly, I'm sick and tired. And this is a first episode topic because I just got to get it out there, okay? If you don't cook for yourself, what are you doing, okay? I am really sick of hearing about people my age, people older than me, who have more money or less money, and they buy food every day. I have a coworker who told me he spends around $30 on food every day. Okay, are you kidding me? $30 on food? If you're one person, you can use $30 to grocery shop for at least a week and a half maybe, if you're really frugal. This is insane. $30 a day. What the hell? And I think, you know what, I'll bring it back around. The reason this is tangentially related to the previous topics is because the person who told me that was a coworker. So $30 a day on food is insane. And the thing for me is I don't like putting money back into the pockets of the people who are paying me. And, the airport and like Subway is not directly paying my paycheck. But, I'm at work and I'm spending money at work. I don't like that. But even if I wasn't doing that, I would not be spending $30 a day on food, because what hearty meals are you getting for $30 a day? When you cook for yourself, you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You wake up, you make toast and eggs, get off at work, you got your lunch, you got a sandwich and some water, maybe a piece of cheese or something. And then come home for lunch, you make some freaking spaghetti, Like, these are hearty meals. You're eating like a human being. But you spend $30 a day on food. You wake up. I assume you don't eat breakfast. Then at lunch, you buy lunch at work, which is probably like $18, if you get enough, if you're hungry enough. Then you go home and you buy dinner. That's another like $20. And it's like, damn, that's a lot of money. And what are you eating? Pizza? Subway? Chicken? Fried chicken? These are all horrible foods for you. And it's like, buy an avocado, bro. Anyway, this episode is going on past 15 minutes, and I believe I'm losing steam in these ridiculous topics. So thank you all for listening. If you did listen, let me know. Make sure to, don't make sure to do anything. This is at the end of the podcast, okay? If you're here, you're a real one. And this is the initial episode, so you know what? You're taking a chance on the pilot of a man who has no clout. So thank you for that. And we'll be back with more straightforward and delicious topics next time. Thank you.